Welcome back, members. We're dealing with some technical difficulties, so my camera for some reason is not working, my video, but hopefully you can hear me clearly, and I'll do my best. The only challenge will be as you ask to speak, you know what, I'll probably just go down the list since I won't be able to see you now. Anyway, members, as we reconvene now, before I asked Ms. Taylor to move on to the next item, I just wanted to bring up this item on our calendar in terms of our meetings. As I'm looking at this February 16th date approaching, and our next meeting really being, or our next board meeting is scheduled after the fact, which would be, I think, the 23rd or something. I was wondering if it was possible for us to move, if not, the whole meeting, but at least one day in February where we could possibly meet. I'm looking at Friday, the 11th, if that works for everybody, to have one meeting before the deadline of the 16th. And the purpose was to give us, and the assessors and the public an opportunity to follow up on the Prop 19 legislation that is either going to be adopted or is moving forward, and the opportunity to review and discuss the temporary forms, guidance, LTAs, and other related matters before the February 16th effective date. And in my discussion with Ms. Fleming, she believes that this would be workable and is also appropriate given the deadline we are working under. Prop 19 will be a standing M item on the board agenda through June of 2021, if not longer, and it may be necessary to make changes to the board meeting dates leading up to that and possibly beyond June. But at least for now, I'd like to see if there's a consensus from the members, and hopefully your schedules are available to regroup on Friday, February the 11th. And let me just put it out there to the members.
Chairman Vasquez, this is Chief Counsel Henry Nanjo. I believe the 11th is a Thursday.
Oh, shoot. I was working, you may be right. I thought I looked on the calendar, but let me double check.
Regular meeting days, 23rd and 24th. So would that be an addition or would it be a replacement?
You're right. I'm looking. So we're looking at February the 12th, then, which should be the Friday.
Vice Chair Schaefer here. Chair Vasquez, would that be in addition to our meetings on the 23rd and 24th, or would be a substitute for one of those days?
It'd be a substitute for one of those days.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Member Gaines.
Yes, go ahead, Member Gaines.
Yeah, Chair Vasquez, that works with my schedule.
Okay.
Members, if I can just inject here, sir, sorry, I just want to clarify what we're proposing in terms of calendaring would be Thursday, February 11th, rather than Friday, February 12th, if you would consider that.
Oh, I'm good. Ms. Fleming, I thought it was more convenient the Friday, but Thursday works with me too.
Yeah, the proposed schedule that we've clarified, and if I may, sir, if I could interject here, what the opportunity is for us to proceed with a board meeting, just to make sure that we have the opportunity to have discussion and any actions from the board before the February 16th operative date. Monday, February 15th is a holiday. So the next earliest that we could have a meeting in terms of our schedules would be to take the Thursday, February 11th meeting as day 1 of 2 for the February meeting. The second of 2 dates in February would be February 23rd. So we're still having 2 days in February. The first day, Thursday, February 11th. The second day would be Tuesday, the 23rd. It's important for us to maintain the 23rd timeframe because we do have some mandatory business there and staff need a little bit more time to prepare for that, but we want to be prepared for the board to take any actions or give direction prior to the operative date for Prop
Well,
19.
Yeah, Vice Chair Schaefer, that works for me and my board and my staff too.
Thank you. Mr. Gaines, are you good with that Thursday now?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Member Cohen, are you okay, comfortable with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Stowers?
So are we saying that we're having on the 11th, day one on the 11th and day two on the 23rd? Will we have to
That's
issue
correct.
one pan or two pans? And how does that
Well,
affect staff workload?
Thank you very much for that question. So the PAN for the February 11th meeting, Thursday, February 11th, the PAN would be posted January 29th. The focus of that Thursday, February 11th meeting would be public policy to address any Proposition 19 matters. The second meeting would be Tuesday, February 23rd. The PAN deadline would be February 12th, actually a day after the February 11th meeting. And we have mandatory work there, so that just gives staff more time. In terms of additional workload, I've discussed it with staff, and we can accommodate that schedule.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you, ma'am.
So when
Good
you
I'm
say
sorry, go ahead.
that,
Go ahead, Ms. Stowers.
when we say public policy, we are again, we'll be having opportunities for the public to address their opinion on Prop 19, or is that what we're doing for the third time?
The agenda M, public policy hearings on our approved PAN, does invite public participation for all of our public meetings. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Chair Vasquez, Vice Chair Schaefer here.
Right.
Since we're talking about all these dates here, I would like to propose, have a motion that hopefully somebody might second, that we have our fourth statewide informational hearing focusing on Prop 19 and its implementation and its education. We have had 3 prior statewide meetings on special issues, and I can't think of anything more important right now than Proposition 19. It'd be a virtual meeting with Chair Vasquez taking the lead, but my office would assist in organizing it and taking care of it along with my BOE staff. We had to postpone our last hearing in his district because of the COVID. During this hearing, we will focus on the latest legislation that is needed to clarify and clean up the problems, get the public's further input on problems, and help educate our constituents with the participation of the state planning and tax experts. Individual board members will then follow up with the town hall in our own districts, partnering with any legislators and assessors to get more constituents involved. I'm not looking to duplicate anything that you're proposing. It's just to be additional, because I think it's good that we do have our statewide listening posts and study groups focus on the issue of the day, and this certainly has become the issue of the day. I would propose that we meet on March 24th, which is a Wednesday, as day 2 of our regular scheduled meeting in March. Does anybody else have any thoughts about us having such a meeting?
I will second it so we can discuss it.
Thank you.
And what was the date you put out? March what?
March 24th, which is a Wednesday at 10 a.m. That would be day 2 of our regular scheduled meeting.
So the board meeting right now is scheduled for the 23rd, and you're proposing to do this on the second day, the 24th.
Right. We've combined, we've used that second day as our meeting before. It works out well.
Members,
Okay.
This is Brenda Fleming. Can I just inject here, please interject?
Yes.
So just to clarify, what we're first talking about in the prior discussion was the February board meeting. I believe the vice chair is addressing an informational hearing that he's proposing for the March timeframe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But
You're
at
right.
this point, we're looking at 2 days in February date one, and this is the discussion is around whether or not the board wants to approve an adjustment to the February schedule to move one of the 2 days up to an earlier date designated as February 11th to allow us to address the matters on Proposition 19 under the M public policy item. We could come back at a later point, and so it's really the board's pleasure if they want to make that a change to the published calendar. Members, if we're making a change to the published calendar, then a motion is needed, and the board has to give us direction to make that change. Subsequently, members, then we can take up the discussion on March board meeting schedules and subsequent dates that would make any adjustments to the calendar for the remainder of the year. But that's a different discussion than the discussion we're having now, specifically under public policy for Prop 19. So if I could ask, if possible, we could address the February schedule first and what the members' pleasure is for the February meetings, February 11th and February 23rd. Or members, would you prefer to have just continue with the currently published February schedule, which is February 23rd and 24th?
Well, let me ask Henry, our attorney, Mr. Nanja, is it appropriate to combine the two, or should we keep them separate for right now?
For clarity of the record, you should probably have separate discussions, first on the February matter, and then secondly, you can take up the March suggestion that Vice Chair Schaefer is making.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and then, unless we're hearing some objections for the February schedule, which would now read, we would have the first day meeting on Thursday, February the 11th, and specifically that one would be to address all these issues around the deadline that will be coming up on February the 16th. Hopefully we'll have some good news in terms of what's happening with the legislator at that point. And then the second meeting in February, we would leave alone for that Tuesday, February the 23rd, if people are comfortable with that.
Vice Chair Schaefer, we're comfortable with that.
Okay.
Member Gaines, I'm comfortable too.
Member Cohen?
Sorry, I'm fumbling with trying to find my mute. I'm fine with it, but I am a little confused as to why we're doing this.
The moving the February, splitting the days, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, primarily because of the deadline. You know, for example,
You're talking about the Prop 19 implementation deadline.
yes, we're just trying to be prepared. You know, I'm just thinking the worst case scenario. We're going to send this letter. We're putting as much pressure as we can on the legislators to move on addressing this February 16th deadline. But if we hit a snag, or if we need to put out maybe some more LTAs, or the assessors have other requests, I think there's just so many moving parts. I would like to have us have that option to be able to respond to it, right?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. And, you know, colleagues, I just want to be really honest here. We need to learn from this. We
Yes.
knew this legislation was passing. We knew it was on we knew it was going before voters. I asked for us to discuss this back in August. I asked for a plan of action to move forward, and we need to learn from this stumble and be a lot more thoughtful and proactive when it comes to legislation and when it comes to protecting the interests of taxpayers. This should not have come to any shock or surprise. The legislation has been out there. We know that it was troubled well before voters even voted on it, but we kind of sat on our hands, and we really need to now jump and move into action. But moving forward, we need to be thinking critically down the line. We've got the May deadline will be coming up again. Perhaps counties are going to need extensions. I mean, there are a lot of things for us to be working proactively on, and it's not in our best interest or the best interest of the taxpayers that we act in such a reactionary mode. So I would hope that this leadership of this board will push aggressively so that we can be on the front end. We are running a strong offense instead of constantly playing defense and catch up and relying on the legislature. If you recall, last year the legislature pointed to the governor pointed to the legislature. Many members were questioning our authority. I mean, it's just madness. We need to assume our role, proceed with confidence, and be very judicious about who we're advocating on behalf of. Thank you.
I agree. The problem we have is that we're not legislators. And I don't know if you remember, but if you want to go back to August, I had several conversations with the members. Matter of fact, even the author that created this Prop 19, in my discussions with her, the senator, now she's no longer the senator, she clearly stated that she lost control of this thing. And it was done inside the Senate House. And we have no control of that. We're not legislators. We can't create legislation. So I take issue to make it sound like we were at fault on any of this. On the contrary, we're in the position now to clean up their mess. But we didn't create this thing. And I take issue when you make it sound like we, as the leadership, had something to do with it or had some fault or some guilt with this. Matter of fact, you raised earlier that we should deal with the firefighters and these other folks that actually, and the realtors that actually created this problem. So I think you need to be a little bit more respectful and understand what took place here, because we had nothing to do with it. And at the end of the day, we're sitting now cleaning up their mess. And I have no problem lifting the hard work that we have to do and to clean this mess up. And that's our role as elected officials, constitutional members. And if anybody wants to challenge that, I'm welcome to have that discussion. But let's look at what's at hand and what we need to do to move forward. And with that,
Chairman Vasquez?
yes, Ms. Stowers, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think when you were doing a poll to see if everybody was okay with adjusting the dates to February the 11th, I'm okay with adjusting the dates to February the 11th and having the second day toward February 23rd.
Thank you.
I would also like to keep that 24th date as an option, keep it on the calendar, just in case we decide that we don't need the meeting on the 11th. Does that make sense?
Sure. Let me ask Ms. Fleming. I don't think that's a problem to at least keep it open, is it?
I'm fully prepared to have staff keep the 23rd and the 24th on the calendar as currently stated, and then we would be adding the third day, which would be February 11th.
Okay.
That would be fine. Thank you, Ms. Stowers.
Chairman Vasquez?
Yes, go ahead.
That we adjust the board calendar to have a meeting on February 11th, a virtual meeting on February 11th to address the public policy issue as it relates to Prop 19. And we continue to have on the calendar our scheduled dates of the 23rd and 24th, and we can adjust those dates as needed.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Question to makers of the motion, if I could.
Yes, Member Gaines, go ahead.
I just would like clarity on the 24th. Do we have the option of not meeting on the 24th if necessary? So if our business is taken care of by having the Prop 19 meeting on the 11th and then a meeting on the 23rd, can we adjust that? Is there, I don't know if that's a Executive Director Fleming question or?
Yeah, Member Gaines, this is Brenda Fleming. Yes, sir, you have the option and a pre-scheduled time, calendar date. If for some reason that 24th meeting is not needed, we have the option of canceling it. It would just be under this conversation, it would be just a contingency.
Very well. And if that was in the form of a motion, Member Stowers?
Yes, it was. That was my point, is to keep that 24th on the calendar just in case.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so we'll be on the 11th and we keep the 23rd and the 24th. And then when as we get closer, if we don't need the 24th, then
sure,
staff can just send out the memo, the 24th has been canceled.
I just want to make sure we had that flexibility the way it's structured. Thank you. Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Chairman Vasquez, this is Chief Counsel Henry Nanjo. Sorry to be technical here, but we did have a prior motion that Member Schaefer made regarding March, and I believe you seconded it. If you're going to move to the motion on February, which is fine, I would recommend that Mr. Schaefer withdraw his motion. Then you can vote on Ms. Stowers' motion, and then Vice Chair Schaefer can make his motion again after you vote on February.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about the procedure because we technically have two motions on the floor. So
You have the motion there?
Schaefer, if you're to hear me, why don't
You don't have to go into the whole thing. Just say that you move.
Yeah,
Have a meeting.
I withdraw.
so you'll withdraw your motion for right now?
Yes, Vice Chair Schaefer, I withdraw my motion right now, and we'll take a look at it again after we finish the present business.
Thank you. And as a seconder, I will rescind my second on that. So now it leaves
Great.
the
Thank you.
February motion. And Mr. Nanjo, I guess we should officially take a vote on this, right?
That would be appropriate. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor, if you please call the roll. And we're actually voting to move now our February calendar. So it would read, we would have the first meeting on Thursday, February the 11th. The second meeting would be Tuesday, February the 23rd. And we would leave open Wednesday, the 24th as a possible meeting. But if not needed, we will dismiss that. Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the roll.
Thank you. Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
This is the motion.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
Thank you. That's unanimous. Now, let me get back. Let me give the vice chair the floor. And you had a proposal for our March calendar.
Right, Vice Chair Schaefer here. I was moving that we hold our fourth statewide informational hearing on Prop 19, focusing on implementation and education, and that we do this on March 24th, which is a Wednesday at 10 a.m. on day 2 of our regular March meeting. We'll be smarter and more informed then than we are now, because we'll have the benefit of our February sessions and further public input. And the difference between the two in March, will also have the opportunity for some hearings within the district. Any of us who want to do that, even enhance the amount of public input. I think doing this with our March 24th meeting would be a positive thing. Thank you.
And I will go ahead and second that again and open up the discussion.
This is Member Gaines.
Member Gaines, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea by Member Schaefer. I don't think you can have too many public hearings when there's a lot of questions and people are needing clarity. So I think each month we're going to have more information. Maybe it's helpful that it's before there's that second deadline too in April. So I think the timing is good. I support that. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think strategically, when I was looking at it, when he proposed it, it fits right in because the next deadline is April the 1st. Other members?
This is Deputy Controller Stowers.
Yes, Ms. Stowers, go ahead.
I do think it's good to continue to be engaged on this topic and in having the public input. But I'm questioning, and each member has a right for their own statewide meeting. We agreed to that last year. But I'm questioning if that's the best use of resources, since we have already committed to having this topic on our regular agenda every month until the problem has been resolved. It's going to be public comment, public policy, It's a standing agenda item, so do we really need to have a separate meeting just for that?
You know, my thinking was, Ms. Stowers, is that as we're it seems like every time we hear it and we open it up to the public, at least I'm learning more about a lot of these little issues that I don't think whoever crafted this legislation really thought through.
I agree with you, but Ms. Fleming just said earlier that this is going to be on our agenda, open up to the public as an M item, which is public policy. So we're going to continue to hear from the public. And even if we want to invite someone to participate with written material, like you would do for a statewide board member meeting, we're going to be doing this for February, the March meeting, the regular scheduled March meeting. We've done it for January. We did it for December. It's going to be, this is not going away. So if it's going to be a standing agenda item with public feedback, I don't know if it's the best use of your statewide meeting, but again, each member has the right to pick his or her topic, and I won't object to it, but I just think it might be a little bit of redundancy.
I hear you. I appreciate it. You know what? Oh, I'm sorry. I hear somebody.
Vice Chair here. I
Sure.
think my proposed meeting is a little different type of meeting. It's a statewide informational hearing, and we could bring in some experts there on some of the more sensitive issues, and rather than just depend on people coming forward, we could designate somebody to come forward and help educate all of us.
No, that's a good point.
Thank you for the clarification, Member Schaefer, I appreciate that. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Would this meeting require any resources from BOE staff, or would the members have to manage it?
Yeah, we would be managing it, the chair and the vice chair and our staff, but our backup staff is always participating whenever we gather.
Members, this is Brenda Fleming. If I could make a comment.
Sure.
So to the degree that we have for a good portion of this calendar year, let me clarify first and foremost, as a part of our normal agenda, we have M, public policy. It's the standard template for our meetings. So we will have that public policy hearing as a portion of the template itself, which allows us to have the public policy meetings as often as you want as a part of our normal board meetings. To the extent that we have, and in those meetings, members, you are more than welcome to invite designated speakers, subject matter experts, and in any aspect of public policy. So it is an open meeting, so certainly the public could participate also, but you also have the opportunity to invite designated stakeholders and key speakers. Secondly, to the extent that we have an information hearing, just to be clear, if you're having an information hearing or any meeting that involves all members concurrently, from a Bagley-Keene perspective, we would then be required for public policy purposes and public meetings to have board proceedings, schedule that meeting, whether you call it an information hearing or not. It still would be a regular, basically a board meeting, and board proceedings and agency staff would be involved to support that. I think I don't want to misstate, but I think perhaps what Deputy Controller Stiles is alluding to is to the extent that members have activities and meetings within their own districts with a number of members less than quorum, so no more than 2 members. If you wanted to do those kinds of things, board proceedings and agency staff would not be needed for those kinds of activities. And members are freely able to engage individually in your districts, collaborating with local government, et cetera. So you also have that opportunity. But I just want to make the distinction between the meetings in terms of the best use of your resources and your time, and really getting an opportunity to optimize, the conversations and the public discussion. So you do have options. Again, public policy, you have the opportunity to invite guests too, so they could be treated in the same manner as an information hearing. I hope that adds some clarity.
If I could just comment, this is Member Gaines.
Yes, go ahead, Member Gaines.
Is this an issue of semantics? Because if it is an M item, that would be on the agenda. for which we could take public comment, and we could, as members could make comments. If it is an informational hearing, maybe I could ask Member Schaefer, are you thinking of something more concentrated and focused on Prop 19 that would be broader than what we would have as an M item on our agenda?
Member Gaines, we are focusing greater on 19, and we would bring in experts to fill some of the void.
Okay. Well, I'm flexible. I think I could go either direction. I don't, from my vantage point, I think there is. I think it would be interesting to have hear from some experts on some of these matters in terms of maybe what options are for our constituents. So I think a deeper dive would be helpful. And I am interested in Executive Director Fleming's perspective in terms of workload. Is this something that they could manage, given some of the other responsibilities they have?
Thank you for that, Member Gaines. And just to note again, you can, under the context of the discussion, at least as how I'm interpreting it, you could also use the public policy hearing portion of it, even if you wanted to make it the primary item on the agenda for the day. So in the net outcome of that is the public policy hearing could be used the same way that an information hearing could be used. So it's not quite semantics. Information hearings, as you know, in the legislature has kind of a different purpose. And it's only information gathering, but at this point, it would be up to the vice chair to articulate what he would see as the difference between the two meetings, perhaps.
Okay.
Would be your option, but you could use, since we have public policy as a part of our normal agenda, there's nothing that prohibits you from taking up the same content or same type of matter in the public hearing that you would in an information hearing. There's no restrictions there.
Okay. That's very well. Maybe Member Schaefer can expand. Thank you.
Yes, well, I'm
Vice Chair Schaefer. Mr. Chair, excuse me, Mr. Schaefer. Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Go ahead, Member Cohen.
Thank you. This really is not something that should be playing out in the general public. This is really an administrative discussion. Why don't we empower you to figure out the details with the chair, with the executive director, and if we need a meeting, great, we'll have a meeting. If we don't, then we don't have a meeting. But there's no need to continue to belabor this publicly. This is not helpful. So I'd like to maybe, I don't know if we need a motion, but we can just empower you to work with the executive director to figure things out and act accordingly.
Member Schaefer, Vice Chair Schaefer, we do have a motion on the floor. I can't emphasize enough that this is not an extra meeting. This is our regular second day meeting anyhow, and that we would bring in some experts who could respond to questions and give us good advice at no cost to the public to make us more efficient and get in the right direction. And we'll all be individually more informed on all this by the time March comes along. If there's anything that anybody's uncertain about in March, this would be our opportunity at our second meeting by making it known now that it's going to be a focus meeting. It'll be our statewide informational hearing, and that entitles us to bring in experts that we don't at a regular meeting. Thank you.
Okay, why don't we just move this thing forward then? Since there is the motion, it's been second. Looks like we've discussed it quite a bit. Let me have Ms. Taylor just call the roll, and then we can just move forward.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
I didn't expect
Deputy Controller Stowers,
Aye.
that. Hey, got a 5-0.
Let's go ahead and Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the next item.
The next item is the second sub-item M1B2, guidance and rulemaking.
Members, before us now is a discussion and decision on the staff's proposal for publication of guidance and initiations of emergency rulemaking. Regarding guidance, it's my understanding that Mr. Young will be providing us with first a summary of the recommended plan and process for LTAs and other guidance that is being developed for the implementation of Prop 19. When it is made available and where assessors and practitioners and the public can locate it. Mr. Young, are you available?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Vasquez, honorable members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to brief you on some of the work that the CAPD staff is doing right now. We are reviewing our prior issued guidance, and we are developing new guidance. Much of it will stem from the memo that Chief Counsel has and Mr. Moon has briefed you on yesterday. Lots of it will also stem from the matrix that we did and where we have concurrence and where we need guidance on the implementation of Prop 19. Staff we've already started and we will continue to work on developing that guidance. Unfortunately, it's going to be really, really tough for us to give you a firm date right now. We are working on issues. I know legal and staff are looking also at regulations and what needs to be amended, if there are any that will need to be created, and especially in light of the proposed legislation. Much of it will actually depend on what makes it through the legislative process. But with that, I would recommend that the board give direction through the executive director to review our existing guidance and to develop new guidance to implement Proposition 19 as expeditiously as possible in lieu or until legislation is passed. That's my recommendation. It is a process that we've already begun and we will keep moving forward with. I am available to take any questions if you wish.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions for Mr. Young? I can't see you all, so I'm assuming there's no questions because I'm not hearing anybody.
Deputy Controller Stowers, I have no questions.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, I have no question.
Thank you.
Member Gaines, I have no questions.
Thank you.
Seriously, let's keep moving. No questions. Let's go.
Okay. Let's go. The next item, regarding emergency rulemaking, Mr. Nanjo will now provide us with a summary of the emergency rulemaking process and when that process might start, and how the assessors and the public will weigh in on this. Mr. Nanjo, if you're available?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair. I'm sorry,
yes.
Deputy Stowers. Do we need a motion on the item that we just said we had no comments on? Because I believe Mr. Young said he was looking for a recommendation from the board.
As far as I know, there was no motion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Nanjo, but I don't think we need to move anything on that, did we?
It would probably, under the circumstances, it would be good to have a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
On that.
Vice Chair Schaefer, I so move.
Okay, it's been moved. I'll go ahead.
Second.
It's been second. And seeing no other comments or questions, Ms. Taylor, if you just call the roll on the staff recommendation motion.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's unanimous. Thank you for that, Ms. Stowers. And we'll go ahead and move with Mr. Nanjo.
Thank you, Chairman Vasquez. Generally speaking, the rulemaking for all procedures for all state agencies in California is covered under the Administrative Procedures Act. The emergency rulemaking process has some similar requirements to the regular rulemaking process, albeit on an accelerated schedule. Typically, there are two ways to proceed with emergency rulemaking. The first is when the legislature declares the existence of an emergency or directs the agency to engage in rulemaking via statute or legislation. The second way requires the board to find the adoption of the regulation is necessary to address an emergency, which requires facts demonstrating that the situation calls for immediate action to avoid serious harm to the public peace, health, safety, or general welfare. Generally speaking, under the emergency rulemaking timeline, the BOE steps total would be anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 months. The process engages most BOE departments, property tax, legal, work collaboratively to draft the proposed emergency rule text. Ledge, research, and statistics assist with the fiscal impact analysis, and then the reg coordinator begins the emergency regulation package. Once the draft documents are completed, the draft package goes through internal clearance through the various divisions within BOE, and then goes to board member preview, which generally is about 2 days. The emergency regulation package is then presented to the board at the next board meeting for adoption. This could be anywhere from 10 days to 1 month, depending on the meeting schedule and how that falls. After the board adoption, BOE notifies the public that the board intends to adopt the emergency regulation and provides the board adopted text via an LTA. The process then goes to OAL, and that time generally for emergency regulations runs about 10 days. Once the emergency regulation package is filed with OAL, OAL will review the package. It's provided public notice on OAL's website, and then OAL will render a decision at the end of the 10-day period. If the emergency action is approved, it's normally effective for 180 days. So basically, the regs have a 180-day life. As you may remember, we used a similar process with the certificated aircraft regulations. We are able to extend those if necessary in order to get the permanent regulations in place. But generally speaking, that is the process. As to your question about when the process may start, it really depends on the status of the legislation. There are some things that we can kind of rough out at this point, but really to draft the regulations in earnest, we would need to have a better feel for what's going on with the legislation and have a fairly high confidence that the legislation will be passed. As to your question about how assessors and the public will be notified, as I mentioned in the timeline, there are several points by which public is given notice, both by the Board of Equalization through public notice for the board meeting where the emergency regulation package is approved, and through the LTA, and then also public is provided additional notice through OAL. And that kind of completes my Cliff Notes version of the emergency rulemaking process. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Nanjo? Seeing none and hearing none, let me ask Ms. Taylor, do we still have any of the assessors on the line?
Yes, I believe Mr. Dronenberg is on.
Can you see if we can get him on and see if he has any, if he would like to speak on this issue?
I'm just waiting your invitation. The only thing I'd say about the process is it's got to be as fast as possible. I think it was thorough analysis of what occurs, but you know, the people are flying blind until we get some of these answers. And
Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this?
Yes, I have 16 written comments.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first is from Gordon Gotch. Regarding rules for Prop 19, are there any exceptions to Prop 19 and Prop 58? Question, if a child has a severe disability and with regards to Prop 58, is this an exception to Prop 19? For instance, after February 16, 2021, would the child with a severe disability be grandfathered in with Prop 58, and therefore Prop 19 would not apply to the child with a severe disability? Our next comment is from Janet Atkinson. I would like to request that there be an exclusion for the transfer of property to a disabled adult child without a reassessment. Disabled adults are reliant on SSI or SSDI, and if they're lucky, small incomes. As parents, we have worked hard to leave them a place to live that they can afford. A reassessment would most likely make staying in their family home impossible and force them into state-subsidized housing, the cost of which would far exceed the small loss of additional property tax from this limited group. Keeping the home as housing for the disabled adult and possibly disabled roommates also helps address the chronic shortage of housing for the disabled low-income residents of high-priced areas in our state. The benefits of this small exception far outweigh the lost revenue. Thank you.
Vice Chair Schaefer here. Could I ask if these are all related to item M2A3, or are these rehashing matters that were presented to us an hour ago?
These have all come in to be requested to be read during this item.
Thank you.
The next comment is from Andrew Creeley. There was a comment made by Mr. Moon yesterday to the effect that the existing pre-Prop 19 law would be applied to trusts irrevocable prior to the implementation date of Prop 19, implying that such trusts would be grandfathered. A member of the public spoke yesterday and raised the example of an existing qualified personal residence trust and asked whether the current law or Prop 19 would apply to the transfer out of the trust on termination. A similar situation is presented by existing bypass or marital trust that became irrevocable on the death of the first spouse to die pre-2/16/2021, and which will distribute outright to children after the surviving spouse dies, presumably post-2/15/2021. I have assumed that Prop 19 would apply to those post-2/15/2021 trust terminations, even though the trusts were irrevocable prior to the 2/16/2021. But Mr. Moon's comment made me wonder if the BOE is taking a different position. Can the BOE legal staff please clarify its position? This is a critical planning issue for many California property owners. The next item is from Gopal Surnath. Request, exempt disabled children as determined by the Social Security Administration and/or state medical disability or regional center from the primary residence rule for adjusting inherited property tax base upwards as a result of Prop 19. Many parents of disabled children, Social Security disabled, especially developmentally disabled regional center, have had the plan of passing on their residence to their children as a rental income property as the only savings scheme they have for their children. In the Bay Area, all savings go to pay the mortgage. This Prop 19 will force those disabled who cannot live or maintain a residence they now live with parents when the parents decease, but will choose other living options, but can benefit from rental income of the parent's primary residence in a special needs trust, to sell the inherited property because they do not have the income for property taxes and forced to pay significant capital gains taxes. The next item comes from an unidentified request. Hi, from the 2006 letter to assessors regarding Prop 60, here what is said regarding addition to a replacement dwelling, D2. If new construction is completed on an existing replacement dwelling, such as a room addition, garage, or pool, after filing and granting a claim for base year value transfer, will the new construction be excluded from the reappraisal under Section 69.5? Answer. The benefits of 69.5 may be extended to new construction completed after the filing and granting of a claim for a base year value transfer, as long as all of the following conditions in subdivision H4 are met. The new construction is completed within 2 years of the date of sale of the original property. The owner notifies the assessor in writing within 30 days after completion of the new construction, and the full cash value of the new construction on the date of completion, plus the full cash value of the replacement dwelling on the date of acquisition, is not more than the adjusted new base year value of the original property. My question, could you confirm that the Prop 19 will address an addition to a replacement dwelling the same way it is with Prop 60 as detailed above? Thank you very much, Eric St. George. The next comment is from Andrea DeRochi. Please exempt disabled children, SSA, California State Medical or Regional Center determined, from the upward adjustment of inherited property tax as a result of Prop 19. Our next comment is from Carolyn Carradine. I have a question and need an answer. We own our home in joint tenancy with our son, guaranteeing a smooth transition of title when we die. First to half when one of the three dies and when the last dies 100%. Will this protect the Prop 58 parent-child transfer and rights to not reassess, since the joint tenancy was established in advance of Prop 19 taking effect? Also, is it not reassessed when the first parent dies? Looking forward to your response. From Sharon Harston. Prop 19 seems to be a targeted attack on agriculture. The San Francisco Bay Area, with its high land values, came to us with its high values, and it may cause the loss of land, some of which has been in the extended family since before 1900. While the property is valuable due to its proximity to the Bay Area, it does not generate any more income to pay taxes than a similar property elsewhere. Most of our family and friends are here. We are scared and heartbroken at the thoughts of having to move from this land due to property taxes. Most of our property is erodible, steep, and not suitable for other than livestock grazing. It provides open space to the area, but our income is less than average. Livestock cannot support full market property taxes in this area. Livestock ag does not require the property tax supported services that buildings, housing people do. It is my hope that we can save our land if the 1 million exemption is for each parcel. It should allow for the primary residence exemption and the agricultural property exemption to be applied to the same property for a $2 million exemption where it applies, as there would be a separate exemptions if the primary residence and the agricultural property were on separate parcels. It seems that those who have put in employee housing should get some exemption for doing a good deed, such as solar property tax exemptions. This was a very underhanded proposition, and not being able to view the proposition before the election. The link in the voter handbook read the entire text had an error message every time I tried to read it before the election. We operate the ranch, but the pro-Prop 19 argument had the obvious lie of saying rental income would cover property tax increases. That might work for building rentals, but pasture land rental would not cover the market rate property taxes in many areas. It is a conflict of BOE to ask realtors and firefighters for input and help. Prop 19 could raise our taxes from less than $10,000 to over $100,000 and cause the loss of our farm ranch. The next item is from Steve Guerrero. The article written by Susan Shelley in the Los Angeles Daily News on May 3rd, 2020 captures my anger and shared frustration of all hardworking families in California who own farms, a single-family property or rental properties that are subject to Prop 19. As Ms. Shelley states, apparently some people think anyone who owns a house is wealthy, and anyone who is wealthy is responsible for paying the expenses of everyone who isn't. The Realtors Initiative, Prop 19, complains that out-of-state residents and trust fund heirs are able to unfairly avoid paying current fair market taxes on vacation homes, luxury estates, beachfront rentals, and income-producing properties. This is misleading, bordering on deceitful. The initiative affects all homes and all property. The realtors aren't really mad at trust fund heirs. They're irritated that ordinary people keep their properties in the family instead of listing them for sale as soon as someone dies. If their initiative passes, families would receive a new higher property tax bill in the mail along with the sympathy cards. That will force many people to sell their family home even if they'd like to keep it. If you haven't heard about this, it's because the repeal of Prop 58 and 193 was quietly added to the new version of the Realtors' previous initiative known as Proposition 5, which failed to pass in 2018. Proposition 5 would have allowed homeowners aged 55 and older to have more opportunities to transfer the base year property tax assessment on their current home to a replacement property. Under current law, Proposition 60 and 90, only one such transfer is allowed in a lifetime, only if the replacement property is of equal or lesser value, and only within the same county or in a county that accepts the transfers. After the 2018 measure failed at the ballot box, the California Association of Realtors decided to try again. That's when they added the tax increase on intergenerational transfers of property. This would be a significant change to the state constitution, and it's just wrong to try to hide it from the voters while advertising the rest of the initiative's provisions. Proposition 58 passed with 75.7% of the vote when it was on the ballot in November 1986. Did anyone do a poll to see if Californians were now interested in repealing it? Doubtful. Because of the coronavirus threat, many, if not all voters, will vote by mail this fall, and the ballots will be in the homes at the beginning of October. Voters might easily be misled by initiative titles and summaries that fail to clearly describe the contents of the measures on the ballot. By the time they find out what they voted for, it will be too late. And based on yesterday's Q&A, it was disclosed by legal counsel that the implementation of Prop 19 cannot be stopped by the Board of Equalization, and its implementation date is still planned for February 16th, despite its detrimental impact to hardworking families and their heirs. Let's not forget, Prop 58 passed with 75.7% of the vote. Does anyone really think that us voters would approve Prop 19 had it been stated clearly up front to eliminate and repeal Prop 58 and Prop 193? Absolutely not. Prop 19 would have more than likely failed by overwhelming majority margins. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment on this very important matter that impacts hardworking families. The next item is from Anthony Rizzotti. The wording of the proposition is misleading. I know numerous people who voted yes on this proposition are absolutely sickened when they find out what it's really about. An attempt by real estate agents to generate commissions. The wording of the proposition only lists change inheritance taxation. It doesn't state increases it. People voted yes only to transfer their property tax 3 times. They didn't understand the other portion. If you listen to the comments, 99% of people are upset with this proposition. It will force numerous people to sell property. Additionally, it will raise rents for the people who do not sell and pass the increases on to tenants. The period of implementation needs to be extended beyond February 15, 2021. The recorder's office is closed.
Ms. Taylor, this is Vice Chair Schaefer. Have we not gone past the 3 minutes allowed for a comment, whether it's read by you or anyone else? I think the
Perhaps
3 minutes.
Mr. Nanjo would weigh in on this.
Member Schaefer, I think it was kind of hard to tell, but Ms. Taylor just started reading another comment. So she's trying to get through them as quickly as possible. We're generally watching the 3 minute limit.
You are on all comments regardless. You're watching the 3-minute limit.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Just
Go
to
ahead,
conclude
Mr.
the current letter. These rush transfers need to be given time to record. The worst thing would be submitting paperwork and having it record after February 16th. Also, it has not been acknowledged if an extra day will be given since February 15th is a holiday. The next letter is from Peter Weschler. I spoke during the meeting but forgot to include one important item. The transfer of tax basis is touted as the great benefit of Prop 19 provides to persons over 55 years of age. My comment here focuses entirely on the question of disability because this proposition is so unfair in so many other ways. While there seems to be provisions for excluding severely disabled persons from the tax reassessment without specifying how inclusion into this desired category is made, let us be clear that this proposition is discriminatory in what it does not address. If a person 55 years or older deserves a tax break via their new ability to transfer their tax base to another property of any size, why are disabled persons excluded from that benefit? Such person may also get older, but they face challenges that neurotypical adults do not throughout their entire lives. A disabled person of any age should be able to retain the tax benefits and stepped-up tax basis for an inherited property, and they should be able to transfer that tax basis to other properties as well. As it stands, my disabled child would have to declare that our home is his primary residence in order for him to retain the tax benefits. But being disabled presents so many challenges that neurotypical adults do not face in terms of being able, for example, to get and retain meaningful employment. My child should be able to transfer that tax basis to other properties in order to take advantage of opportunities like employment that are not locally available. And should my child be unfit for regular employment due to disability, he should be able to make use of an inherited rental property in order to achieve the financial security that so many of us take for granted. Now I am robbed of even that sense of security. The next public comment is from Susan Lucas. As someone who will be inheriting a rental property in the future, which is currently my primary residence, I am concerned about how this law was promoted to the public before the election and how it will be enacted. As the parent of an adult child with disabilities who hoped to also pass this property on to my child, I am worried that he will not be able to maintain the property taxes if he inherits the home and it is reassessed. The next comment is from Trudy Grable. Prop 19 threatens secure housing for people with disabilities. As a parent of a young woman who experiences an intellectual disability and autism spectrum disorder, I have worked hard to ensure that lifetime housing will be available to her by inheriting my home into her irrevocable special needs trust. Living in Silicon Valley, a homeowner since 1988, I've been blessed with higher property values. However, those values and reassessments are devastating to our sons and daughters with disability. Living on either Social Security income or disabled adult benefits based on the contributions of a parent, which is only half of what the parent gets, leaves our folks in harm's way. Even with the first $1 million exclusion for residing in the house, the outrageous property costs in our area leave a probable tax liability on up to the second $1 million, even for a very modest home. Reassessment based on $1 million would result in property taxes that far exceed their limited income. There must be an exception. We have a comment from Kelly Wolf. Please exempt disabled children, SSA, California State Medical or Regional Center determined from the upward adjustment of inherited property taxes as a result of Prop 19. And the final from Fran Goodwin. Please exempt disabled children, SSA, California State Medical or Regional Center determined from the upward adjustment of inherited property taxes as a result of Prop 19. Also, if a landlord rents exclusively to individuals with IDD, Regional Center clients, Medi-Cal recipients at low-income rent, can we place a lower limit, reduction, or no property tax exemption? Seems we need to encourage landlords to rent to low-income renters who clearly will never earn a living due to disability, yet have a lifetime ahead to find and stay on rental home. Please help.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Do we have anybody on the public line that would wish to speak on this item before we move it?
If you would like to make a public comment on item M1B2, guidance and rulemaking, the AT&T operator will give instructions. AT&T moderator, can you please let us know if anyone would like to make a public comment?
Sure, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0. An operator will gather your name offline and place you back in queue. Once again, if you would like to make a comment, please press 1, 0. And I show no public comments at this time.
Thank you. Members, I would like to entertain a motion to move the staff's recommendation plan for Prop 19 guidance and emergency rulemaking.
I'll second that, Member Gaines.
All right, it's been moved and second.
Point of clarification,
Yes, Ms. Stowers?
can you please restate staff recommendation?
Mr. Nanjo, could you repeat that?
Sorry, let me go ahead and pull it up.
I was hoping you had it in front of you because I don't.
This is Richard Moon. I can reiterate the recommendation.
Please.
So our recommendation, staff's recommendation is that the board, through the executive director, directs staff to review the existing guidance and to develop guidance to implement Proposition 19 as expeditiously as possible in lieu or until the legislation is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other comments? Okay, with that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
Thank you. That's unanimous, folks. With that, Ms. Taylor, if you please call the next item.
Chair Vasquez,
Mr. Gaines.
could I ask a couple of questions of Mr. Moon that were raised by some of our constituents?
Sure, go ahead.
And I'm hoping you'll be able to get in touch with these people personally, but if you don't have the necessary information, maybe it's good to get some public answers here on. There was a question about joint tenants, about adding children onto the deed. And could you clarify how that would work under Prop 19?
Yeah, so Prop 19 doesn't touch the joint tenancy rules, but of course, the effect of the joint tenancy rules might affect what happens to a family home that's transferred. But it really depends. Joint tenancy can get complicated, and I think it would be best if someone on staff, perhaps the taxpayer rights advocate, got in touch with that individual so that we're sure that we have all of the facts that are necessary.
Okay. Maybe, is this something we could post on our website so that maybe you could give an example of children being added onto a deed? And then what happens upon the death of the parent?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that in our existing guidance, LTA guidance on letter to assessors, there is a question and answer on jointly held property, okay. and we would anticipate having a similar question and answer in new guidance.
Okay, could we put it on the website too, some examples? Because I think people are searching for answers, and hopefully their assessor can help them, but it'd be nice to have more than one source of information.
Yes, that will be available on our website.
Okay, great. And then this question of irrevocable trust, it was my understanding that if property is deeded to a child or grandchild and it was done prior to the 16th of February, that would stand.
So it's going to depend, I guess, what you mean. And again, trust law is an area where it gets very fact specific. And so I don't want to make any comments on any specific incident, but generally what I can say is that if the transfer occurs prior to the operative date, so in other words, if by creation of the irrevocable trust, there's some transfer of property before that operative date, the old rules, the older rules should apply. But even if the trust is created prior to the operative date, but the transfer occurs after the operative date, in all likelihood, the new rules would apply.
I see. Okay. And then finally, there's been so many questions about disabled children and passing property on to them. There is a component within this initiative that benefits those who are disabled, but is that only on the base year value transfer?
That's correct. The severely disabled qualification is on the base year value transfer provisions, and the parent-child, grandparent-grandchild exclusion provisions are silent on that.
Yeah, that's a really sad. I don't know how when it's in an initiative, I don't know how you fix that other than putting an initiative on the ballot. I think that's the only course that I know of, because since it was voted by the people, it would have to, you could carry a bill through the legislature that then would go on the ballot, I believe. Do you have anything to add on that? Am I thinking clear on that?
You're generally correct, but it also depends on the way the initiative is worded. So, for example, if the initiative with the operative date, it clearly states the operative date. So the only way to change that would be through another constitutional amendment. But if, for example, there are parts of the initiative that say it's subject to definitions that are passed by the legislature, then the legislature would be able to do that through statutes. So it just depends what the initiative specifically either says or does not say about that specific topic.
Okay. And will we get more information on this as we dig deeper into it? Because we don't know. I don't think we know whether there's a nuance in the current language that would allow a legislative fix on this issue, do we?
No, but we'd be happy to take a look at it.
Okay. And hopefully the people who asked the question, hopefully we've got emails and things or phone numbers where we can respond. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Those are good questions. Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the next item.
The third sub-item is M1B3, forms and processes.
Thank you. Members, this item was presented to us in part yesterday, but we now need to discuss and decide whether to adopt the staff's recommended proposal for the production of the temporary Prop 19 forms and processes. Ms. Lumsden will provide us with a summary of the recommended plan and process for the forms, and when the temporary forms may first be available and where assessors, practitioners, and the public can locate them. Ms. Lumsden, are you available?
Yes. Thank you, Chairman Vasquez. Let me see if I can get rid of this. So yes, yesterday I spoke at the meeting and about the forms process, and I indicated at that meeting that as BOE staff have identified and created 7 new forms and amended 5 existing forms. and we were able to finish the in-house review that we were currently going through when I spoke yesterday. We finished that in-house review just this morning, and we were able to send those 12 forms over to the California Assessors Association's Forms Subcommittee Chair and also the Proposition 19 Implementation Ad Hoc Committee Chair for them to share with their members to get further input to make sure that these forms will help assist the assessors in collecting the necessary information they will need to, as part of implementing this Proposition 19. During that time, I indicated that we were hoping to expedite this process, and by doing so through issuing these forms through a letter to assessors, and then once that letter to assessors was issued, it would be able to be, those forms would be able to be accessed by the assessor and their staff immediately, and we would then take those forms and put them through our formal forms process, where the forms subcommittee would go through their normal process of review and make any changes needed at that time. And those forms would then, along with all the other forms that we do changes to, would be presented to the board members formally at the board meeting in May of 2021. So as a way to expedite this process, I have a staff recommendation for you when you are ready for me to give it to you.
Do you want to go ahead and do that now, or should we take questions from the members?
It's completely up to you.
Why don't you go ahead and read off the staff recommendation first?
So our staff recommendation is that the board adopt the expedited forms process as presented under the January 14th, 2021 notice and agenda item M1A5, implementation of forms and processes, by issuing the 12 newly created and amended forms by way of a letter to assessors after seeking input and approval of the forms from the CAA's Proposition 19 Implementation Ad Hoc Committee and the CAA's Forms Subcommittee. It is anticipated that the LTA issuing the forms could be released by February 1st, 2021. The forms would then be placed on the board's assessor portal for assessors and their staff to access immediately. We would place sample forms on the board's website for informational purposes only for the public. The final forms will be presented to the board for adoption at the May 2020 agenda meeting. And that concludes my recommendation.
Thank you. Is the president still, Ms. Gronenberg, still on the line?
I'm here. I was asked to comment because just this morning, my staff's already working on forms that we will need with people coming in. And I agree with this expedited letter to assessors suggestion. I think that's very important that we get it as fast as possible. And that seems like the most expeditious way to get the new guidance out.
Thank you.
And Chairman, if I further,
Yes.
that helps the assessors see forms as soon as possible because they also then need to update those forms with their own logos, their own contact information, and also put taxpayer like a tracking information on some of them. And so this gives them plenty of time to be able to do that or incorporate them into any system that they need to. So that's the other reason for trying to get them expedited so quickly.
And we appreciate that.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions of Ms. Lumsden's presentation and recommendation? Hearing and seeing none, Ms. Taylor, do we have any written comments on this item?
Yes, I have two short written comments. The first is from Esther. At yesterday's meeting, BOE members agreed to have staff reply to all the questions and comments that are online. Where can we see these questions and answers? I emailed PT web requests at boe.ca.gov, but have yet to receive a reply to my question. The next comment is from Sharon Hartston. Sorry not to get to this question in with other comments, but I just thought of it while listening. Attorney said time is short and may not get an appointment soon. If a document is notarized before February 15th, but they do not get it recorded until after February 15th, is this still considered a transfer under the old rules? And that concludes the written comments.
Thank you. Well, no, I guess Ms. Lumpson, do you have any comments on what we just heard?
In regards to the two public comments?
Yes, specifically on that one, the filing, the deadline.
I can state, and like I said, Richard, maybe you will want to further comment, but I do know that there is already something in place. I believe it's under Property Tax Rule 460.260 that allows the assessor the discretion to use another date if they find reason to do so. Typically, in general, it is the recording date of the document, but if there is for some reason a large gap in the recording of that document versus, say, a signature or a notary, this rebuttable presumption would allow the assessor to determine a different date than the recording date. So I believe that that would take care of that issue. But like I said, Richard may want to add to that. Richard Moon.
This is Richard Moon from the legal department. Ms. Lumsden is absolutely correct. Although the recordation date is evidence of the date of the actual transfer, that's merely a presumption. And so even if the deed was actually recorded on one date, that doesn't mean that the assessor absolutely has to follow that date if there's evidence that the transfer actually occurred before then.
Thank you. Vice Chair Schaefer, I think you had a question.
Yes, I'm very pleased with Mr. Moon's observations, and I would just like to restate my philosophy that whenever there's a doubt, we should resolve all doubts in favor of the taxpayer. We can afford to do it, and that's right. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw a hand up from Mr. Dronenberg. Is he still on the line?
Yeah, Tony, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Chairman, our office is already, I'm also the recorder, the county recorder, as well as the assessor. And we've already established that vast majority, it's somewhere close to 85% of our deeds are electronically recorded, and they're recorded in a day. So that's not a problem. It's the individuals that are coming in on one-offs. And we have established for this specific situation, we've established a policy that we'll accept any date that's reasonable, and that the notary is an acceptable date because of the office being closed. Everything has to go through the mail, so we're going to be very conservative and allow anything that's reasonable, and that would include a notary's date.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, do we have anybody on the line that wishes to speak on this item?
If you would like to make a public comment on item M1B3, forms and processes, the AT&T operator will give you instructions. AT&T moderator, can you please let us know if anyone would like to make a public comment?
Certainly, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. 1, 0. We do have a couple people queuing up. Will just be a moment when we gather their names. While we're waiting, I'll give the reminder, if you do want to make a comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. And our comment, the only comment we have in queue at this time will come from the line of Mary Ann Welch. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Okay. Hi, board. I just want to say something here. Isn't it sad, the waste of your time, the waste of doing all of the forms, just because the assembly and the state assembly members and the state senators passed this unruly proposition, basically not being accountable at all. And now the cost of doing the forms, the cost of all this, your time and everything makes me sick. And all I could say to all of you, I know you're trying to do a good job, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of money, because right now, all the forms you're doing may have to have new forms, because if they change anything now, the forms you're doing now won't apply. So it's sort of a waste of money and a waste of time. I also believe that what we really need to do is vote all of those people out of office. And my last statement is this: I'm praying to God to keep me alive as long as possible, not to pay the state $1 more at any time. I want to live a long time and stay in my house and not pay 1 more cent to the California government for any reason. Both the assembly and the senators and the governor really did a big number on us here. And it, not only the real estate people, but what happened is that the state twisted it and put in the inherited portion of this. So there's 2 propositions on one proposition, which is illegal. Nobody wants to look at that. You can't have 2 major things on one thing. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you. With that, members, I'd like to entertain a motion to move the staff recommendation.
So moved, Deputy Controller Stowers.
Ms. Stowers has moved it. I'll go ahead and second that. Hearing and seeing no comments or questions, Ms. Taylor, will you please call the roll?
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Member Cohen.
I think she signed off.
Okay. Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
So that's a 4. So it's that's approved, and we'll go ahead and move forward. Ms. Taylor, will you please call the next item?
Yes, our 4th sub-item is M1B4, Communications Plan, Education and Outreach.
Thank you. I would like to invite Mr. Peter Kim, Communications Chief, and Ms. Lisa Thompson, Taxpayer Rights Advocate, to come forward and provide us with information and their recommendation regarding the Prop 19 Communications Plan and the urgent need for expanded education and outreach. Mr. Kim, are you available?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, Chairman Vasquez and honorable members. This is Peter Kim, Chief Communications Officer. As the board discusses the Proposition 19 implementation plan for education and outreach, our Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Lisa Thompson and I would like to provide an update on the communications plan and education and outreach on Proposition 19. As you know, the 58 county assessors are responsible for assessing properties, and the BOE's constitutional and statutory duties include the oversight of the county assessors to ensure assessment practices are uniform and consistent. The BOE is also tasked with issuing property tax rules and guidance to county assessors so that all taxpayers throughout the state are equally treated. The BOE is also responsible for protecting taxpayer rights in accordance with the Morgan Property Taxpayers Bill of Rights to ensure taxpayers are treated fairly in the assessment and collection of property taxes under property tax law. With this in mind, we have already begun an awareness campaign on the provisions of Proposition 19. I have been closely collaborating with the Taxpayers' Rights Advocate to effectively communicate and provide valuable information to taxpayers since Proposition 19 will significantly change how property tax assessments are treated. As you can appreciate, the first operative date of February 16th is quickly approaching, and we will be leveraging various communications methods to ensure we are reaching the maximum number of taxpayers as possible. In the past, for any tax law changes, we would use the key operative dates as the starting point and devise a plan on how to communicate with taxpayers on what they need to know and how we can effectively disseminate the information to them. So how and what are we doing to communicate information on Proposition 19? The BOE website has been updated with the latest information on Proposition 19. Our goal is to serve as a repository of information on Proposition 19 and regularly update the website with any new and relevant information. Taxpayers can also easily find information on Proposition 19 directly through entering a simple web address, www.boe.ca.gov/Prop19. Also, we will be utilizing the agency's social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Graphics are in the process of being finalized, and it will visually help taxpayers to easily associate these images with information on Proposition 19. In addition, we will reach out and share BOE-generated information to statewide organizations such as the California Taxpayers Association, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, the California Association of Realtors, the California Farm Bureau Federation, AARP California, the California Lawyers Association's Taxation, Real Property Law, and Trusts and Estates section, and the California Society of CPAs so that they can inform their members. Due to the key operative date approaching in about a month, maximizing opportunities to timely share information and updates is of the essence. We will also continue to use traditional forms of communication, such as issuing media advisories and news releases, so that the press can also inform their readers of the changes as a result of Proposition 19. Now, the BOE's Taxpayers' Rights Advocate, Lisa Thompson, will speak more specifically on education and outreach.
Good afternoon, board members. I'm Lisa Thompson, the agency's Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office, and I'm pleased to be here with Peter Kim, the agency's Chief Communication Officer, to share with you information about taxpayer education efforts concerning Proposition 19. As part of the Morgan Taxpayer Bill of Rights under Section 5908, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate shall assist assessors in their efforts to provide education and instruction to local taxpayers to ensure taxpayers' understanding of property tax laws. As a result of past work with the California Assessors Association, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office has helped educate taxpayers on property tax exclusions through published information sheets that provide basic information to taxpayers so that they are aware of property tax savings available to them. Each information sheet contains 2 pages that is written in simple, non-technical terms and describes the requirements for the exclusion, how to apply for it, helpful hints, and where to find additional information. To date, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office has published 4 information sheets. They address the following topics: the parent-to-child transfer exclusion, grandparent-to-grandchild exclusion, base year value transfer for seniors age 55 and older, and the base year value transfer for disabled persons. All 4 published information sheets are affected by Proposition 19. Therefore, the Taxpayer Rights Advocate will revise them to ensure that taxpayers have information conforming to property tax law in effect, focusing first on the parent-to-child transfer and the grandparent-to-grandparent child transfer, followed by the base year value transfer exclusions for seniors and disabled persons. The Taxpayer Rights Advocate Office also plans to develop a new information sheet to discuss base year value transfers for disaster relief to reflect the effects of Proposition 19, to ensure taxpayers are aware of the potential savings to them and how to apply for it. Our office will work on this revision and as well as the existing information sheet revisions. Additionally, because Proposition 19 affects so many areas of exclusions or base year value transfers, we plan to develop a new information sheet or brief fact sheet similar to Publication 1, California State Board of Equalization fact sheet, to identify the main components of the Proposition 19 and direct taxpayers to resources where they can provide additional information. The sheet would be posted to our website to help taxpayers, to help educate them, and our goal is to increase taxpayer awareness to ensure people are informed about the provisions of the new law. There will be notification efforts by county assessors, but it would be helpful for board members to disseminate the new fact sheet or information sheet to constituents in their districts to help increase awareness. If there is an interest from the board members, we would produce a short PowerPoint presentation based on the information sheet that could be used by board members' office for speaking engagements throughout the state to increase awareness. Now, I will turn it back to the Chief Communications Officer, Peter Kim, to conclude his remarks, unless there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be working hand in hand with Ms. Thompson to ensure that the design of all communications and education tools are with the taxpayer in mind. These county assessors are on the front lines and will directly interact with taxpayers in the implementation of Proposition 19. The agency's focus will be to ensure that taxpayers receive fair and uniform treatment statewide and direct taxpayers to resources generated by the BOE, county assessors, and other organizations. We hope that board members and board member offices can leverage the resources and tools developed by the agency to help with disseminating the critical information and also assist with the board's communications, education, and outreach to your constituents and taxpayers in your respective equalization districts. One example, and I know yesterday a few members expressed this already, would be to partner with legislators and county assessors located in your respective equalization districts to collaborate and maximize education and outreach efforts. Your offices can provide the needed information and resources and direct them to the agency for further assistance. This concludes our update. Staff recommends that the board adopt the communications plan on education and outreach for Proposition 19. The communications plan includes utilizing all electronic and traditional means of communications, such as websites, social media, and other feasible channels available to disseminate the materials generated by the BOE and Taxpayers' Rights Advocate Office, such as the revision of the 4 existing information sheets, the proposed fact sheet on Proposition 19, and the accompanying PowerPoint presentation to be used for speaking engagements. We are available for any questions you may have, and thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions for either Ms. Thompson or Mr. Kim?
Chair Vasquez?
Yes, Member Gaines.
If I could, can I just make some comments?
Sure, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Because it relates to our branding. And so if I could just talk a little bit about the value of effectively branding the BOE and expanding our communications effort and how important that is to our mission. And I'm glad that to see that there's progress with the hiring of Peter Kim and the collaboration and planning that's taken place so far with Peter, BOE staff, my office, and Vice Chair Schaefer and his office. We do important work here, and it's important that the public, the legislature, and everyone else interested in the effective administration of property taxes understands what we do and the value we provide. I know that all of our districts are different, and we may have different areas that are most important to our particular constituents, but the core message regarding the role in the property tax system is the same. I think right now, with the major changes from Prop 19, it is more important than ever that we are active in our outreach so the public understands our expertise and our ability to help them navigate these changes. Simply redesigning the website and developing and linking to the latest Prop 19 information is a great help for taxpayers who may be searching for guidance. This holds true as well for other government agencies and staff who may be seeking help for taxpayers. It's incumbent on us to be active in spreading our message. We want to make sure that the BOE is fair and that it's transparent, it's responsive, and is expert in all property tax matters. Our brand should reflect all of those good traits and actions. I look forward to working together for the continued expansion of the BOE's branding and communication efforts. We truly have kind of a melding occurring, and the timing's very good, working with Lisa Thompson and Peter Kim and Member Schaefer and myself, with trying to make sure that we're communicating clearly with our constituents. And I've had a chance to look at the redesign of the website, and I just want to compliment BOE staff, Peter Kim, and the whole team for moving forward on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Gaines. We have noted all of your comments, and I look forward to collaborating with your office, continue to collaborate with your office and with Vice Chair Schaefer's office, and we look forward to continuing to educate all of the taxpayers throughout the state. Thank you.
Vice Chair Schaefer, I join in Member Gaines' statement, which was well needed and appropriately stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kim and Ms. Thompson, as you mentioned in your presentation, that you're obviously going through and producing these materials, and it sounds like you're already moving in the right direction with this. I'm actually looking to do a town hall on Prop 19 in my district, and actually my assessor, Jeff Prang, is already set one up for next Friday that I'm going to participate with him on. I was wondering what materials you might have already developed, that we could use to hopefully shed a little bit of light on this Prop 19 situation that we're in.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Ms. Thompson if she could address in terms of the development of the educational materials. Ms. Thompson?
Yes, we can go ahead and start on identifying the fact sheet or information sheet on Proposition 19 as more of a priority, if that is the wish of the board. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I just may add, we are continually updating our website with new and relevant information. And so I think one of the major resources that we could all share with all of our taxpayers is our website. And so that's definitely a resource that we would want to leverage with all taxpayers.
No, I appreciate it. And if there's any kind of a generic PowerPoint presentation that you might already have that would affect especially folks throughout the state, that might be helpful as well.
Yes, sir. We'll start working on that right away.
Thank you. With that, members, if there's no other comments or questions, I would like to entertain a motion that we move the staff's recommendation.
So move.
It's been moved by Ms. Vice Chair Schaefer.
Second.
Second by Member Gaines. Hearing and seeing no other comments. Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the roll.
Chairman Vasquez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schaefer,
Aye.
Member Gaines,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Stowers.
Aye.
That's unanimous of those present still. And with that, Ms. Taylor, if you would please call the next item.
Yes. The final item for today is N, public comment on matters not on the agenda. We have not received any public comment forms on this item.
So with that, members, I believe that concludes our meeting for today. I'd like to adjourn, if we could, this meeting
Camera or not?
No.
in honor of, today actually happens to be the birthday of Martin Luther King. And I thought it'd be appropriate to adjourn in his honor, seeing that it is his birthday. And I know we have a 3-day weekend here, which is in essence to celebrate his birthday. The legal holiday, I guess, is technically Monday, but actually it turns out today is actually the day he was born. So today is actually his birthday, and I thought it'd be appropriate that we adjourn in his honor. And also, once again, just remind folks as we move forward and as we continue to deal with this COVID situation, that we need to continue to be diligent and be safe, because it seems to be coming closer and closer to home to many of us. I actually had a real good friend that lost this fight to COVID a couple of days ago. He lost it. And he was, I thought, still relatively young. I believe he just turned 70. And some of the folks in Sacramento might have run across him because he was real active in the public relations arena as a consultant. His name was Raymond Burgess, and I'd like to adjourn in his honor as well, and just pray and wish everybody good health, because this COVID situation, at least in LA County, seems to be getting worse than better. And I'm hoping we'll begin to see the turnaround in the next month or so. And I see a hand up from
Chairman Vasquez?
Yes.
This is Chief Counsel Henry Nancho. My apologies, but I just realized I don't believe we've checked with AT&T to find out if there's any public commenters on matters not on the agenda on the line. So we should make that call.
Sure.
Before you put your adjournment.
Yes, I'll go ahead. AT&T moderator, can you please let us know if there is anyone on the line who would like to make a public comment on matters not on the agenda?
Okay, once again, if you would like to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time.
Yeah.
1, 0.
Monday, you know. I'm not going to bring.
They always have it on Monday, but the date changes.
I'm not
We
going to
do have one comes from the line of Marianne Welch. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Member
Yes,
Schaefer, your mic's on, just so you know. Yeah.
Yes, I would like to thank the board for all their time and everything, but I just would like to say something about the tax advocacy board. I mean, it's nice that they do all this public service and everything. However, it really should have been done before the ballot and before the vote. If we knew what was on it, none of this would have been happening. And isn't it funny that the coronavirus is number 19 and Proposition 19 is like a major virus too? All I could say is this: I wish all of you good health, and I wish all of you a good, healthy rest of your life. But I'm just saying that this is a real problem, and I hope that we could at least put it on hold or do something to eliminate it. I would truly like it to have a new ballot, an emergency ballot put on to repeal Proposition 19 when it comes to the inheritance, because as far as I'm concerned, inheritance is a right, and California is taking that away from all of us now. All of our homes are in jeopardy, and our farms are in jeopardy because of this stupid a proposition that never should have been on the ballot, and I blame Newsom and I blame the Assembly and the state legislators completely. They are to blame for doing this. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Chair Vasquez, Vice Chair
Yes,
Schaefer, I want to concur with you in remembering Martin Luther King today. I think that's very fine, and I'm very proud of the progress that civil rights has been making, and the extent San Diegans have been in the leadership of it. I'm very proud of that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Vasquez, Deputy Controller Stowers here.
Yes, Ms. Stowers, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for acknowledging me. I too would like to stand with you in acknowledging the great Martin Luther King's birthday. And I want to share a couple of quotes. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Second quote, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
I'm glad you brought those up. The first one you read is my favorite one, and it's one that I try to live by, because as elected officials, we're constantly being hammered on some of these issues. And to me, that really kind of hits it on the nail when he talks about, you know, where you stand in controversy, right? So thank you for bringing that up.
Member Vasquez?
Yes, Mr. Gaines.
Excuse me, I don't want to interrupt Member Stowers.
I'm finished. Thank you, Member Gates.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for taking the time, Chair Vasquez, to recognize Martin Luther King and the great things he did in our country. And I try to remember to read his letter from the Birmingham jail each year. I've read it a few times, and wow, it really it speaks to his soul and the great things he did as a leader for equal rights. And so I hope everybody has a good weekend and a good celebration of Martin Luther King, and an opportunity to reflect. Thank you.
Thank you. And isn't it kind of ironic that, you know, he was actually born in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1929 on today, and here, you know, Georgia was the swing state for the Senate. But anyway, with that, folks, wish you all the best, and looking forward to continue, you know, our work, especially on Prop 19, as we begin to try to navigate this system to hopefully make it a little bit more convenient and easier for the taxpayer. And thank you, new president, Ernie Dronenberg, for sticking with us. I know you were on the line all day with us. Really appreciated the fact that you were able to dedicate your time to stay with us. And I know Jeff Prang, I'm not sure if Assessor Jeff Prang is still on the line, but thank him as well. I know he spent most of the day with us as well. And with that, we will be adjourned until our next meeting, which is February the 11th will be our next meeting. Be safe, and looking forward to regrouping. And I'm sure we'll be in communication before then as well as we move forward on some of these emergency items. Thank you once again. And it is now, wow, almost 4 o'clock. It's 3:54. I think our drop date time was 4 o'clock, so we just made it. Thank you all, and have a good day and evening, and enjoy your weekend.